In this presentation, I'm going to go over the question, what if there are 1 trillion more trees, looking at the effects of climate change and what can be done to slow, halt, or even reverse the rate of CO2 emissions. Climate change is a big problem. Around 1,400 tons of carbon dioxide are released into the atmosphere every minute by humanity. How can we reduce climate change? By reducing fossil fuel emissions and drawing down excess CO2, we can restore the balance of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This can effectively reduce and even someday end climate change. Photosynthesis is a process done by plants and trees in which they consume atmospheric carbon. This process uses energy from sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into oxygen and energy storing carbohydrates. Plants then consume these carbohydrates in a reverse process called respiration, converting them into energy and releasing some carbon into the atmosphere. The carbon that is not released is stored as newly formed wood tissue. Having less carbon released than is taken in means that over time and over a larger scale with way more trees, it will effectively decrease the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. Trees will continue to grow and add to their collected amount of carbon for the rest of their lives. However, when they die and decay, they release carbon. Most of the carbon is stored in the ground and can stay there for thousands of years before it gets released into the atmosphere. Unfortunately, the carbon cannot stay in the soil forever, and that means that there needs to be a longer term that trees can last and be helping rid the atmosphere of CO2. So, is there a species of tree that might be able to be planted all over the planet that lasts longer and reproduces faster than normal trees? Unfortunately, that kind of tree doesn't exist. There is no one tree that can be planted and be able to thrive in every climate, but even if there was, it wouldn't be a long-term solution. Forests are diverse ecosystems with a complex network of living organisms, so having a one-size-fits-all tree is out of the question. The best trees to plant in an ecosystem are trees that are native to that ecosystem that already play a role there. Preliminary research shows that environments with naturally occurring diversity of trees are better equipped for climate change because there is less competition for resources. Again, the key to fighting climate change is less about planting more trees and more about the restoration of ecosystems. Luckily, there are many regions across the world that could really benefit from having native trees be planted. Not only this, but in analyzing soil and climate data across the world, nearly 1 billion hectares of forest, or 2.47 acres per hectare, which means 2.47 billion acres, can be reasonably planted, or roughly 1.2 trillion trees. This number of trees could potentially capture between 100 and 200 billion tons of carbon, accounting for over 1/6 of human carbon emissions. Are we helping by intervening? Research shows that there is not a huge difference in human intervention by means of planting trees in an ecosystem as opposed to just leaving the ecosystem alone. Obviously, the solutions for different areas are not going to all be the same, and some forests may require more human assistance, while others may recover better if they are left alone. Possible adverse effects. Some unforeseen problems and possible adverse effects of planting this many trees consist of these. Some scientists hypothesize that planting 1 trillion trees could create an excessive release of biochemicals that could accelerate climate change. Another problem is that future generations will have to oversee and protect these forests from the natural and economic forces that depleted them to begin with. Rebuilding ecosystems little by little. The adverse potential effects are keeping people from wanting to fully commit to forest restoration, so they are collecting sample data by restoring multiple small and local ecosystems to see if global restoration is fathomable. This research, if it returns good news, will give confidence back to restoration programs for the future.